From Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central Television. My name is Mazino Appeal. The top stories tonight. Christian Association of Nigeria accuses presidency of twisting facts and misrepresenting Christian genocide claim. And court remands 12 protesters involved in demonstrations demanding release of IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu. Also tonight, former French President Nicolas Sarkozy begins 5-year jail term following conviction of criminal conspiracy.
And in business, NNPC Limited reports profit decline of 71% in September 2025 amid oil production disruptions.
The wait is over for basketball fans as new NBA season tips up tonight with 2 blockbuster games lined up.
Tonight begins now. Evening and welcome again. Tonight begins with the state of national security over which the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, has accused the presidency of twisting facts and misrepresenting its position in the alleged killings of Christians across the country. Now, it insists that what is happening in several parts of northern Nigeria and the Middle Belt amounts to a Christian genocide. In a statement issued by its president, Archbishop Daniel Oko, CAN clarified that it did not at any point dismiss or describe the widespread killings as a so-called Christian genocide as claimed by the presidential advisor. While United States Senator Ted Cruz had described the persistent killings of Christians in Nigeria as a Christian genocide, CAN expressed alarm over the presidency's subsequent denial. Now, Sam Amadi is a policy strategist as well as law and governance expert. He joins me alongside Pastor Julius Arabo, Plateau State Chapter Secretary of the Christian Association of Nigeria, to discuss the genocide claim by the Christian Association of Nigeria. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. Now, we are going to be starting with clergy. Oh, well, I'm being told that we have to start with Mr. Sam Amadi. Mr. Sam, if you're there, good evening once again. Thank you very much for joining us. So let's first of all start by defining what genocide actually is and whether the claims that the Christian Association of Nigeria have put forward fits that term genocide.
Well, thank you for having me. I think I didn't get the earlier part of the comment, but I heard the latter part. I think, genocide has a definition, but it also has been expanded. Basically, a targeted killing of people, mass killing of people because of either their religious or ethnic identity. And the problem is that there's some facts that are confusing. First, those who seem to say there's no genocide consider the fact that, of course, there are churches, there are Christians in government, and the question is, like the president says, the president is married to a Christian, and therefore you can't talk about a planned, state-backed effort to kill all Christians. But that's not just what genocide is all about. They attempt to ethnically cleanse people, or religiously cleanse them, take their land, basically mass violence. So I would argue that even if we disagree with whether what's happened to northern Christians amounts to genocide in a typical definition, there's no argument, in my own view, that Christians in northern part of Nigeria suffer what I call state-backed, state-sanctioned, and state-enabled mass violence at a scale. Again, if you consider that since 2000, we now have this constitutional audit of states in Nigeria declaring themselves to be Islamic republics by virtue of enacting Sharia criminal law. Since 1957, the leadership it said no, we're going to only have private Sharia, not public. 1959, we retained the same notion. 1979, the same notion. 1999 constitution, the same idea of allowing only Sharia Islamic law for private issues. By 2000, Zamfara and then the 12 northern states have now enacted criminal Sharia, which has led to cases like blasphemy, where people are killed, stoned to death, and the law does nothing. So if you look at instances where there have been mass violence, killings of Christians, churches destroyed, stoning to death of persons who are Christians for alleged blasphemy, and the Nigerian state never punishes, never prosecutes any of these egregious religious violation of human rights, then it doesn't matter whether they're Christians in power or not. The argument holds that maybe something close to a genocide is happening.
Well, Mr. Amadi,
state-enabled, state-sanctioned, or state-concealed mass violence against Christians.
Okay, then, Mr. Amadi, the Christian Association of Nigeria they've refuted these claims, and they've consistently said that there are targeted forms of these attacks. But the Nigerian government has said that they've called this baseless. They actually even said it's false, it's ignorance, and it's baseless. Well, I'm wondering what the risks of dismissing these claims might be for Nigeria if the government continues to dismiss them. As we know, the term genocide carries global impact here. So what are the implications if they continue to dismiss these claims?
I think the most important implication is that the Nigerian government will refuse to take the right action. So now they have sent lobbyists, we've seen efforts to get some powerful influencers speak and say all is well. In fact, the context in which they kind of lied about Khan's position. Look, I think that the U.S. placing Nigeria as a country of concern is merited. Nigeria was on that list until under Biden, there was some kind of lobbying with the APC, the government, and some democratic operatives in Washington, and got Nigeria out of that list. But if you look at my PhD actually was on this, and I understand my former supervisor, David Little, was the director, was the chair of that commission. The idea of that commission, what all the reports about violations of Christians, destruction of their churches in northern Nigeria, stoning to death for alleged blasphemy, all these acts amount to fulfilling the condition for Nigeria to be designated. So even though I'm in Nigeria, if I was in Washington, looking at these facts and Nigeria's deliberate effort not to intervene, not to protect northern Christians, I would put Nigeria on that list. So truly, Nigeria merits to be on that list. Again, if we continue to do nothing and play the politics of denial, then you compound this crisis, and ultimately we might be put in a difficult position internationally. Open Doors, one of the leading freedom of religion NGOs in the world, global, rates Nigeria as the country where Christians are most oppressed by indicators. So I think that what we should be doing right now, instead of denying and looking for how to bring in foreigners to come and fiasco of PR, is to National Assembly. I heard that the team has gone to Washington from legislators to go and say the same thing. Why don't you sit down and say, implemented to stop these killings? What have you done about people who have stoned others to death for fair speech? Why have you not prosecuted them? Why can't the president, for example, appoint a special counsel with wide-ranging powers, not tied to bureaucracy, to go after violators of freedom of religion and those who use religion to violate the fundamental rights of other people and prosecute them? We have a crisis of this nature in other parts of the world. You appoint a special counsel, answer to with a special mandate. Why can't National Assembly, for example, set up a National Commission on Religious Freedom, whose mandate will be to deal with this impunity? Think about Bida and Agaie. Think about several persons who have been killed. And most of these killings are connected to high places in Nigeria in government.
Mr. Amadi.
Investigated, nobody tried. Nobody prosecuted.
Mr. Madi, I do have Mr. Madi, I do have Pastor Julius Arabo, but I wanted to find out from you first, so before I let you go, and real quick, in your experience, this continuous dismissal, what does it cause for Nigeria's reputation outside the country, and what does it cause for its reputation within the country when it comes to institutional trust?
First, it leads to loss of public trust among Northern Christians. I mean, look, when people are saying we are under genocide, whether it's true or false, it suggests clearly that they have no trust in the formal institutions of the state. The work of government is to reassure them, to deal with, look, go to them, listen to them. What are the issues that, even if there's no genocide, what are they crying about? Solve that problem internationally. It exposes Nigeria to possible legal action, ICC, ICJ, and of course, America could place Nigeria on that list, and maybe they will.
Mr. Sam Amaji, thank you very much, but I would like to turn now to Pastor Julius Arabo, who's joining us right now. Pastor, thank you very much for joining us. What's the Christian Association of Nigeria's stance on the alleged genocide? How does it plan to advocate for the rights and protection of Christian communities in Nigeria? I think we have lost the pastor there. The connection has been severed. But Mr. Madi, let me come back to you. Let's talk about the claims here. Now, when you say genocide, a couple of things are raised. First off, you need evidence. You need to prove a pattern. You need to show intent. Would you say that this falls in with everything that the Christian Association of Nigeria have pointed out, especially in the Middle Belt, where we have had these cases repeatedly this year?
I think, technically speaking, you might not prove all the incidents of genocide in this case, in terms of the Nigerian government having intent to destroy Northern Christians. I would say no. But I would argue there's a pattern of, when I use the word, mark my word, mass violence, a pattern of some group of Nigerians in authority using their power to oppress, violate, and kill Northern Christians. I think there's a pattern. Two, I think there's a pattern of state complicity in not taking action. So, in a sense, don't forget that genocide is not just about people who kill, people who enable state authorities who fail to take action to stop mass violence themselves are also, indictable for genocide. Look at the case in Rwanda and most of the cases for the ICC. Some persons look at even Israel and Gaza. The allegation against the government of Israel over genocide, it's not that they are coming to kill everybody, but the scale of the war they are fighting suggests some people that this is deliberate ethnic cleansing, that they're going to kill all Gazans. But as long as there is a massive, pattern and intent to either reduce these people, kill as many as possible, dislodge them from their land of possession, that is genocidal. And so I think that, yes, all the incidents may not occur, but there's enough evidence of repeated pattern of this violence by particular persons targeted at the Christians because of their being Christians. There's also pattern of government refusing to take action, even in the most blatant words, like the killing of student of Dorothy, the lady in Sokoto secondary school. The people who did it did videos, claimed ownership and responsibility. So why did the Sokoto state government fail to prosecute them? And when they were taken to court, there were senior advocates. In fact, people on social media, some aides of government of Buhari then, all came out and said, we support the stoning of this young lady for alleged blasphemy. So I'm concerned, and that's what Senator Cruz is saying. The bill he brought is a bill that says, as long as Nigeria allows blasphemy conviction in Islam, it has, violated the fundamental rights of Christians in Nigeria.
All right. Dr. Ahmad, you want to say thank you?
Because no secular state should.
All right, Dr. Ahmad, I want to say thank you very much for joining us with your expert view on the matter. Thank you very much. Coming up tonight, Nigerian teen Joy Oga takes over as vice president for one day. We'll bring you that and more stories after the break. Do stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Tonight on News Central Television. A reminder of our top stories tonight. Christian Association of Nigeria accuses presidency of twisting facts and misrepresenting Christian genocide claim. Court remands 12 protesters involved in demonstrations demanding release of IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu. Former French President Nicolas Sarkozy begins 5-year jail term following conviction of criminal conspiracy. A magistrate court in Kuje, Abuja has ordered the remand of Emmanuel Kanu, younger brother to the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB. Nnamdi Kanu, along with his lawyer, Barrister Aloy Ejimako. The development was made public in Kanunta Kanu, another sibling of, or rather was made public by Kanunta Kanu, another sibling of IPOB leader, who alleged on X that there was a coordinated move by the executive, legislative and judicial branches of government to derail Nnamdi Kanu's upcoming trial. Ejimako and Emmanuel Kanu were among 12 persons earlier arraigned by the Nigeria police over a protest that took place in Abuja on Monday to force the government to release the detained IPOB leader. Documents made public by the former chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, Professor Chidi Odinkanu, indicate that the accused were charged with incitement and public disturbance. And staying on legal matters, the Supreme Court has reserved judgment in a suit filed by 10 governors elected on the platform of the People's Democratic Party, challenging the declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State by President Bola Tinubu. At the commencement of proceedings, the fifth plaintiff, Delta State, withdrew from the case. On behalf of the plaintiff's senior advocate of Nigeria, Eyitayo Jegede, argued that their suit was not to challenge the president's constitutional power to proclaim a state of emergency, but to question the extent to which such proclamation could affect the offices of the governor, deputy governor, and State House of Assembly. The Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, told the Apex Court that Rivers State was deeply enmeshed in crisis, needing presidential intervention. After hearing submissions from all parties, the Supreme Court reserved judgment for a date to be communicated to the parties. Vice President Kashim Shettima has re-emphasized the commitment of the current administration to advancing girl-child education across Nigeria. This was as the Vice President hosted a delegation from Plan International at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. News Central State House correspondent Bettina Nweli here reports.
During the meeting, the Vice President invited a teenager, Joy Oga, to symbolically take over his seat as one-day Vice President of Nigeria. He described First Lady Oluremi Tinubu as an example of how a well-supported girl child can become a national leader, while reiterating that President Tinubu's administration is gender-friendly, inclusive, and determined to ensure equal opportunities for all Nigerians.
In President Bola Tinubu, you have an ally that you can believe and invest your trust in. His wife is a symbol of how, when properly empowered and positioned, a girl child can blossom into a great leader. I want to assure you, on behalf of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that this government is gender friendly. We believe in inclusivity. We cannot disenfranchise half of our population and expect to grow as a nation.
This year, for the first time, we are here with the office of the Vice President. So we have a long list of things to ask, we could possibly ask, but we'll just ask for one thing, to please see how we can ensure that girls have education, well educated across this nation, because when you educate one girl, you educate the whole nation.
Oga used the opportunity to advocate for policies that protect and empower Nigerian girls, calling for free sanitary products in schools, improved access to water and sanitation, and stronger enforcement of child protection laws.
I was really grateful for the opportunity given to me to sit on the seat of the Vice President for a day. I talked about usable toilets for the girls and supply of sanitary pads, gender-friendly toilets, education where schools where girls are free and safe, and I talked about gender equality. The girl-child education is very important because the girls are the builders and the drivers of the nation.
As young Joy Oga sends her message from the Vice President's seat to the nation, her voice echoes the hope of millions of Nigerian girls seeking a fair chance at education and leadership. In Abuja, for News Central, Bettina Nwili.
In Nigeria, a fresh legal and political storm is brewing, this time over who controls the lottery and gaming industry. Despite a Supreme Court ruling earlier favoring the states, the federal government and the National Assembly are pushing for a new central gaming law. But as the dust rises, so do questions about constitutional respect and the rule of law. Here, Igbalani Amoni has a report on this.
In October 2024, the Supreme Court ruled that lotteries and gaming fall under residual matters, giving full regulatory power to states. But that hasn't stopped the federal government and National Assembly from attempting to introduce a central gaming act.
I know most of our states don't even have the facility to track all of this. I'm coming, sir. I'm coming, sir. They don't have the facility. I'm coming, sir. Yes, because I know that in the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria, lottery and other is under the residual list. Yes. This is online, and I want to believe that the originator of this bill must have explored the Constitution and all the laws of the land before coming up with this bill.
Yes, I accept the fact that the Supreme Court has ruled on this particular subject matter, but it does not stop the lawmakers from making a law that will deal with it going forward.
For legal experts and state officials, including Lagos State Attorney General Lawal Pedro, the move is unconstitutional and provocative.
Having regard to the clear provisions of Section 47, Subsection A and C of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, the Lagos State government, represented by the first plaintiff, and the second to 22nd plaintiff state have the power to the exclusion of the first and second defendant to make law to regulate and control operation of lottery within their states.
Advocacy groups warn that if allowed, it could weaken Nigeria's federal structure and disrespect judicial authority.
The National Assembly cannot now go behind the door to try and rewrite the Constitution. If they want to amend the law to empower federal government to make laws with regards to gaming and lottery, then the constitutional amendment process should be set in motion. And we all know what the law says.
Some of these committee members do not even know that there was a Supreme Court judgment. And the Supreme Court judgment exclusively said that any matters that is not in the exclusive list or the concurrent list, the National Assembly ceased to legislate on that, with all due respect.
At the heart of the issue is control, and with it, money. States want to protect their constitutional turf and internally generated revenue. The federal government wants unified oversight. But for now, the biggest loser may be the rule of law itself. In Lagos, for News Central, Igbalani Omani.
At least 30 people have been reported killed, while about 40 others sustained varying degrees of injuries in a tragic tanker explosion that occurred on Tuesday in Niger State. The incident happened around 11 a.m. at Essan and Badeggi communities along the Bida Agaie road in Kacha local government area of the state. Eyewitnesses said the victims were scooping fuel from a fallen tanker when the vehicle suddenly exploded, setting off a massive fire that engulfed several people. Many victims were said to have been burnt beyond recognition, while the injured were evacuated to nearby hospitals for treatment. We're on a short break now. We've got more stories for tonight. In Tunisia, crowds held up banners condemning the environmental pollution that has been caused by the CGT phosphate plant for years, and that critics say now threatens the health of thousands of residents. Protesters marched through the city chanting slogans such as "Gabs wants to live" and "Dismantle the pollution units." Gab's, home to at least 400,000 people, has seen thousands take to the streets in recent weeks, demanding the immediate shutdown of the plant. The unrest has grown into one of the biggest tests facing President Kais Saied since he seized extraordinary powers in 2021. Saied has described the situation as an environmental assassination, while blaming past administrations for widespread cancer and respiratory illness and the destruction of local ecosystems. France's former president Nicolas Sarkozy has arrived at a prison in Paris to start serving a 5-year jail term. The 70-year-old leader arrived at La Santé prison in a police car on Tuesday morning, becoming the first former head of state or head of an European Union state to be jailed. Sarkozy was sentenced to 5 years after being found guilty last month of criminal conspiracy due to having accepted millions of euros in illegal payments from the late Libyan ruler Muammar Gaddafi to fund his 2007 election campaign. He has always denied the charges. His lawyers said as he arrived to start his sentence that a request for release had been immediately filed. Dozens of supporters and family members had stood outside Sarkozy's home from early Tuesday, some holding up framed portraits. Now for this conversation, I am joined now by an international journalist, Adeni Kunu, as well as global policy analyst Tabeyang Echu. Good to have you gentlemen here. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Mr. Kunu, let's start with you. From your perspective, what does Nicolas Sarkozy's jailing say about transparency and accountability in political campaign financing? Not just in France, but let's talk about across democracies.
I think that it's indicative of one thing, that nobody is above the law. And without a doubt, the French government has been able to demonstrate that nobody can escape if you contravene whatever it is that is a laid down rule for you to actually either finance your campaign or for you to actually allow judicial processes to go through. And let's remind ourselves that the key issue that has brought about some other tentacles resulting in its conviction was that the money came from Gaddafi in Libya. Up until Gaddafi's death, Gaddafi never allowed many countries across the world to have access to many of the natural resources that it has. And do not also forget that this same man that has been accused was the person that was used to ensure that Gaddafi was ousted from power. So people who are actually students of history must understand that the same man that will be going to jail happened to be the pivotal character before Gaddafi left office. But as far as that funding is concerned, I have to say that it's a two-pronged approach. If you look at Sarkozy going to jail now, yes, he's been accused and convicted, though it will be appealed, but there are also other things that he found out, that he was trying at some point to actually make a mess of judicial process by bribing somebody for information. We know that people go all about to get certain information in certain ways, but that being said, but let me also say this. The majority of the funds being used by even the French government comes from Africa. If you look at what is happening in our West African neighboring countries here, it is simply because at the moment those countries have blocked every access that France used to have to their funds. And if you also look at Cameroon, so you find that on one side, it's a lesson to the global community that nobody is above the law. But it's also a lesson that opens our eyes to the realization that there's a lot of hypocrisy within government, and there's a lot of things that happen that if you look to, yes, please.
So Mr. Kunu, you're saying practically that there is on one side rule of law, and then there's on another side political persecution. So is that what you're clearly saying?
Absolutely, absolutely. I must tell you that if we took away Jacques Chirac, the former leader of France, said, France is nothing without Africa. Even as we speak, as I'm speaking with you today, 2025, majority of the Francophone countries have their foreign reserve compulsorily domiciled in the French bank account, and if there's any profit made from their foreign reserve, France has to approve how much they can withdraw. In addition to that, the French government has the right of refusal if, for instance, anything is found in Côte d'Ivoire today as a mineral resource. It has to be that France refuses to buy before Côte d'Ivoire is permitted to sell to any other country. So to me, that is not different from what they are doing to Nicolas Sarkozy.
Okay.
It is simply because the French government is unhappy that they never had access to the mineral resources of Libya, but one man was able to get campaign fund from the same person. So it's hypocrisy on the one hand and rule of law on the other. Yes, please.
All right, then. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Kuni. Let's move now to Mr. Etchi, who's been waiting for us on the wings. Mr. Etchi, thank you very much for waiting. But I'd like to find out from you what you think this means for public trust when it comes to the people of France. And what does this send to the rest of the world, the rest democracies or the other democracies across the world?
I think it is significant, even though it's coming a little bit too late, and it's just a slap in the wrist. It's really something that he should go to jail for a long time. Unfortunately, he's going to go in there, they're going to appeal, and in a couple of months, they might get him out. But it is significant, to say the least. I think the last French president that went to jail was, I think, during the First World, that was Marshal Pétain. To really have this level of judicial accountability and the independence of the judiciary in France is significant. But on the bigger frame of things, like what the other analyst is saying, the evil that the French have done to the African continent, not only in West Africa, the Central African region is still completely under the complete domination of the French. So if we begin to hold some of these their leaders, not only past leaders, even the current ones, it would send a very powerful message to the people that there can still be justice even though it's delayed.
So what lessons do you think countries like Nigeria and other developing democracies can draw from this, from the way France is handling the Sarkozy case?
I do hope that, given that we are still young democracies, but they should copy from the judicial independence. Because the problem with most of these African countries is the way the judiciary, the executive, and the legislature are all intertwined. And it is very difficult for anything to happen when the president sits as the person at the top of the judiciary or controls some of the minons within that whole arm of government. So they need to be independent, and people should respect the decisions of the judiciary when holding people accountable.
Okay.
But unfortunately, the system of patronage and clientelism that we have in the continent, it really needs us to do better, for us to see what others are doing, not to copy or just plagiarize what they're doing, but customize and contextualize it based on our own realities.
So, Mr. Etchi, a former president going to jail for 5 years, this is unprecedented. And I'm wondering if you see this case serving as a paradigm shift when it comes to the way financing campaigns is looked at across democracies. Do you see this changing the way laws are formed or the mechanism of political funding?
I don't think so. For those of us here in the US, you could see that even in advanced democracies, if care is not taken, the people with the money actually run the world. To run for Congress here is a lot of money. To run for president, you're spending billions. Where's this money coming from? From sources that you cannot put your hands on. And in the continent, you have a lot of shadowy influence from the diaspora, from untoward elements with arrangement of shady deals. And you have China now also swooping in with no stringent rules as far as corruption is concerned. So I think even though it's significant, I don't think that is really something major. I might come to think of it. It was in 2012, and it's almost 14 years down the road that he's been brought to account. A lot of people have actually forgotten. if you don't have knowledgeable people with historical records to actually tell you that this is what he did to Libya, and when Gaddafi started asking back for the money, he conspired with the American and some of their colleagues in Europe to get him killed.
Mr. Kuna, let me come to you and ask you, so you've heard Mr. Etchu here, they say it doesn't matter, but what about you? Do you think this is an exception, or would it serve as a model?
Well, I think it can serve as a model, and it could be seen as an exception depending on the context with which you're operating from. It's an exception because since the Second World War, which obviously is like over 70 years ago, nobody that has served as leader of France has ever gone to jail. But it's also a model because we have a lot of despots on the African continent, people who have been accused of having done something that they should not have done, but they're still walking free. We found situations where certain leaders have been actually accused and certain allegations have been taken to court. In Nigeria, for instance, a former lawmaker of the Federal Republic of Nigeria was caught to have collected monies that were marked by the security services of the country, yet the person has been granted pardon, despite all the hard work done to actually get to that. So when you see a ridicule, in my candid estimation, of certain judicial efforts that have been made, then it calls to question the kind of independence we want. My other guests there said something significant. There's a way that respective arms of government are very intertwined in our part of the country, where you find out that instead of standing firm and standing tall on what the individual arm of government should do, many of them are cohering, they are collaborating. The only time that Nigeria has a semblance of a judiciary that was, independent, I'm just putting it in context now, of the executive was two times. First, when President Olusegun Obasanjo was there against the House of Reps leader, and when Bukola Saraki was there, and how he repeatedly stood his ground against some things that would have been done in excesses by the president. So I'm saying that for many of us on the continent of Africa who are privileged to be speaking from the diaspora, it is key for those of us pressing out to ensure that we emphasize on models that will ensure there's independence of the arm of government and that can scrutinize the books of the president. For instance, President Muhammadu Buhari did lots of things.
Mr.
God bless his soul, is no more. But the point is, we can do a retroactive, investigation of certain things, even if we cannot send the dead man to jail, but we can look at the things he didn't do right, so that we can actually pivot ourselves better for the coming interventions that government must do. Yes, it's a model and it's an exception. Yes, please.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Kunu. Thank you very much, Mr. Etchu. I wish you could have this conversation continuously, but unfortunately, we have used up the allotted time for it. Thank you, gentlemen.
This segment is brought to you by MoneyPoint.
The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited has reported a sharp 71% drop in profit after tax to 216 billion naira in September 2025, down from 748 billion naira in April, signaling a major financial setback for the state-owned oil firm. Monthly reports revealed fluctuating profits peaking at 1.05 trillion naira in May before plunging in subsequent months. The decline has been linked to reduced crude output following a 3-day Pengassan strike, which cost Nigeria over 600,000 barrels of crude. Crude production fell to 1.39 million barrels per day, while revenue dropped to 4.27 trillion naira, reflecting operational disruptions and sector volatility. Nigerian fintech giant MoneyPoint Inc. has raised over $200 million in a Series C funding round led by Development Partners International. marking one of Africa's largest fintech equity deals this year. The round also saw participation from Leapfrog Investment, Visa, Google's Africa Investment Fund, and the International Finance Corporation. The funds will power MoneyPoint's expansion across Africa and global markets, strengthening its digital solutions for small and medium-sized enterprises. Founded in 2015, MoneyPoint, Nigeria's largest business banking platform, serves over 10 million users and processes $250 billion annually. CEO Tosin Eniolorunda said the new capital will help advance MoneyPoint's mission of widening financial inclusion and empowering African entrepreneurs. We'll bring you the stock market report right after this break. You're welcome back, and it's time for the stock market report. The bulls kept their grip on the Nigerian exchange today, nudging the all-share index up by 0.41% to close at 148,355.04 points, while the market capped out at 94.17 trillion naira. And on sectoral performance, it was a day of modest gains led by industrial and consumer goods, while the insurance sector played the spoiler. So let's take a look. Consumer goods dropped by 1.35%, while industrial goods was up by 0.21%. Oil and gas also closed in the green at 0.18%, while insurance was up by 0.24%, and banking was also in the green at 1.44%. Now, it looks like investors are slowly testing the waters ahead of fresh earnings reports, with selective optimism driving the tempo on the trading floor. With industrial stocks leading the charge and insurers losing a bit of steam, the market seems to be balancing hope with hesitation. We'll see if this quiet momentum can build into something stronger as the week unfolds on the NGX. Well, that's a wrap on Business Tonight. My name is Chamunda Bank, and coming up next is Onyi with sports. Stay tuned.
This segment is brought to you by MoneyPoint.
In sports, the wait is officially over for basketball fans as the 2025-2026 NBA regular season begins tonight with a highly anticipated doubleheader marking the league's 80th season. The Golden State Warriors and the Los Angeles Lakers will get things rolling with a star-studded battle of the future Hall of Famers. The Lakers will be missing superstar LeBron James, who could be out for a month due to sciatica. Of course, elsewhere, the defending champions and the Oklahoma City Thunder will host the new-look Houston Rockets. Two-time finalist, the MVP Kevin Durant, he leads Rockets to the Oklahoma City to face perennial MVP candidate Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Durant will make his much-anticipated regular season debut for the Rockets following a blockbuster off-season trade. Houston, now the super team, they are regarded as a top contender in the competitive Western Conference, and their early season clash with the reigning champions will provide an immediate measure for their potential. And here in Nigeria, the National Sport Commission, in collaboration with the World Athletics and the Athletics Federation of Nigeria, will host the inaugural Africa Running Conference in Lagos. Speaking at a press briefing in Abuja on Tuesday, the NSC chairman, Malam Shehu highlighted the vision behind the conference, emphasizing that it aligns closely with the Commission's long-term goals and the broader vision of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to elevate Nigeria's sport economy. Diko stressed that the road running experience is a unique comparative advantage for Nigeria. Also speaking, the NSE Director General Bukola Olopade expressed pride and gratitude to welcoming the global sport community to Nigeria. To football, Super Falcons midfielder Jennifer Echegini has been ruled out of Nigeria's 2026 Women's African Cup of Nations qualifying doubleheader against Benin Republic after sustaining a hamstring injury in Paris Saint-Germain's league match on Monday night. Echegini, who scored the decisive goal in Nigeria's triumph over the host Morocco at the 2024 Women's African Cup of Nations final, will miss both legs of the qualifying round, and the first scheduled for Friday at the Stade Kegu in Lomé, the return leg for Tuesday at the MKO Abiola Sport Arena in Abeokuta, Ogun State. Meanwhile, Captain Rasheedat Ajibade is expected to arrive in Lome tonight, alongside with Osinachi Ohale, Chuendu Hezwo, Michelle Aloje, Deborah Abiodun and Esther Okoronkwo, not forgetting Shukurat Oladipo. The camp received boost on Monday night with the arrival of Christy Ucheibe and goalkeeper Chiamaka Nnadozie, bringing the total number of players to 11 in camp. Saudi Arabian-based defender Ashley Plumpton also joined the team on Tuesday afternoon. Let's go to the Champions League. In today's early kickoff, Fermin Lopez, he scored a hat-trick at the Estadio Olympique Luis as Barcelona beat Olympiacos 6-1 in the UEFA Champions League, extending a perfect record in the home matches against the Greek opposition to 8 matches in a row. The Catalan Giants, emphatically, they responded to their defeat against Paris Saint-Germain to make it 2 wins from 3 UEFA Champions League matches this term, I beg your pardon. Elsewhere, Azerbaijan side Kirat Almaty picked up their first ever point in the goalless draw with Paphos of Cyprus. And that's it in the world of sport. I am Onyinyechi Obaro. Up next, entertainment news with Sam Dandy.
Sam, what do we have today?
Let's get right into it. Young Nigerian stars Rema and Ira Star have joined forces on this new collaborative single, Who's That Girl, and dropped official visuals to hit first, of course, last week Friday when the singles first dropped. Now, the already buzzing track blends Ira's Afro-pop R&B style with Rema's explosive Afro-rave energy for what promises to be a dance floor anthem. Now, the visuals are crisp, and the duo have, over the past year, built a global footprint. Now, recall Sappy Girl Ira Star lit up the stage of the Global Citizen Festival in New York, and the duo mesmerized the crowd. Ira's hit Rush hit crossed 500 million, and she recently signed Jay-Z's Rock Nation, making history, including the 2025 BET Award. Meanwhile, Rema's enjoyed global tour success, earning a Grammy nod for his sophomore album. Now remember, they both made submissions, and by next month, we'll find out if they will be Grammy nominated again ahead of next year's ceremony. Let's move to another one. Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs is back in the news. Just weeks after being sentenced to over 4 years in prison, the hip-hop icon has officially filed an appeal against his federal conviction, a move his lawyers say is based on major legal errors during sentencing. Meanwhile, the White House has shut down reports that U.S. President Donald Trump is planning to pardon Diddy, calling the rumors completely false. Now, the rapper-producer who was found guilty on 2 counts under the Mann Act had some of the more serious racketeering and trafficking charges dropped earlier this year. Well, we were expecting this, but those are the biggest stories in entertainment. I am Sam Dandy.
And that's the news tonight. Do remember now you can send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on your screens now. And do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Go TV channel 23, Star Times 274, Avo TV, and of course on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino Appeal.